Hello and welcome to this special Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. This is part 4 in our countdown of the top 50 QPR players of all time. In this part, we'll be counting down from 20 to 11. Literally any player that you're coming across now could be any number really. They're all bona fide QPR legends. I'm James, and as you can see, I'm joined again by Steve and Tony, and they'll be sharing their thoughts as we count down. I'll just mention before we crack on, the list, as I've said in each part, it's been formed over 4 months of voting amongst the QPR community. It's not one person's list. If you want some more details about how it was formed, I'll put a link in the description, and you can click that, and it'll take you through to our forum where you can see how it was formed. And I won't delay it any longer. We all want to get cracking on. Number 20. It's a player who is probably going to be in history for a long, long time as the only player to have ever scored in an FA Cup final for Queen's Park Rangers. We'll be very happy if that changes anytime soon, but I can't see it. Number 20 is Terry Fenwick. 308 appearances, 45 goals. He was, of course, a QPR player when Diego Maradona went past him in 1986 to score the best goal of the World Cup history, as people say. Steve, Terry Fenwick, is he right that he's in the top 20?
Oh, definitely. I think, yeah. He was a leader. He was what we needed this season. Fantastic guy, and he was a leader on the pitch. He was that type of player that every team needs. He was one of those guys that he was never going to be a glory man, but what a player, what a leader. And I mean, it showed, didn't it, years after, when wherever he went, Terry Venables would take him to whichever club he was at. And I think Venables even made him manager when he went to Portsmouth. But yeah, top man, and well deserved to be in the top 20.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that. Yeah. And of course, Terry Venables knows a bit about a good player when he sees one, and the fact that he had him at Palace, then brought him to us, and then took him to Spurs, tells you a lot about Terry Fenwick. He played mainly at centre half, but he wasn't especially tall, but it never seemed to matter. I mean, he obviously read the game well enough that the kind of lack of height against centre forwards never seemed to be a big problem.
Well, he was an England international, so he must have been highly
rated. Yeah.
It says 45 goals as well. I'm guessing he took the penalties.
I don't remember him taking penalties.
It's a lot of goals, I thought, for someone who played defensively, but maybe someone could comment. Yeah.
Steve, do you remember? I don't remember him being a penalty taker.
I don't remember him taking penalties. I remember him being skipper in that 82-83 year and being absolutely magnificent. And coming up and scoring a few goals from corners and set pieces. But no, don't remember him as a penalty taker.
Yeah. No, he just must have been one of those centre halves that popped up in the opponent's box a lot.
Yeah, it's really done 1 in 7, a goal every 7. That's pretty impressive, I thought.
That's very impressive for centre half. Yeah.
So yeah, number 20, Terry Fenwick. Number 19, someone who was signed as a midfielder, but actually ended up being regarded as one of the best left backs in the history of QPR, and that is Clive Wilson. 199 appearances, 14 goals. And he was the left back when I first started supporting QPR. And I think it's often overlooked how much his departure in 1995 led to our relegation. It's obviously always talked about Les Ferdinand, but I think Clive Wilson leaving was another big blow to the side at the same time. It's hard for us to recover from 2 losses like that. Tony, number 19, would you have had him around there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, class. In fact, I was kind of thinking that if you probably two of our two best teams ever, the 75, 76 and the early 90s team that came 5th, one of the things they had in common, had a lot of various things in common, but one of the things they had in common is both teams had 2 fantastic fullbacks. So in that team, it was Clive Wilson, David Bardsley, who were both outstanding players, and both of them were kind of footballers as well as defenders. So you already said Clive Wilson was midfielder when he joined us, He was he was a proper footballer as well as being a fantastic fullback.
Now, when you're talking of penalty takers, this guy was absolutely deadly.
Yes, I don't ever remember him missing.
No, he was a fantastic penalty taker, and I used to, again, a lovely guy to watch, Clive Wilson, when he was playing. And as Tony said, the basis of any good team is a good defence, and he was part of that. And the fact he could score goals from the penalty spot, brilliant.
Yeah, I think that season, 95, 96, after he left, when you think who was playing left back, Trevor Chalice and Rufus Brevitt would have obviously been in there, and we just weren't the same. Those names just don't come into the same category, do they? There was probably Steve Yates maybe even being tried out there in various games. Matthew Brazier, I think, was starting to come through. It just left us so short when you do that comparison. Yeah, a big loss then, and quite rightly. Number 19, Clive Wilson. Number 18, the scorer of the best QPR goal of all time. I think we can probably put our biased hats on, maybe say the best football goal of all time as well. And that's, of course, Trevor Sinclair. 190 appearances, 21 goals. From my point of view, it's still unforgivable that we sold him for £1 million and what was it, Tim Brecker and Ian Dowie in exchange or something like that. It was criminal what he was left for in the end. Number 18, Steve, is that about right? Or would you have had him higher?
No, I did have him slightly higher. I had him at number 16 in my list. But Trevor Sinclair, really skillful, pacey winger. And if you go back all the years prior to Trevor, it was what QPR were known for, those pacey wingers. We had the Morgans back in the day. Trevor Sinclair was fantastic. When he came from Blackpool, I don't think any of us realised just how good he would become. And that goal against Barnsley in the FA Cup, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, how many goals like that did we see scored? They're very rare, and shows the man's skill that he could do that from the edge of the box and right into the net. It's something you never see. Sorry, Tony?
So it's quite incredible he'd even think to try it.
Yeah, that was it. Absolutely. But he was a good player.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, to see him live made it even better when you got to the games.
Yeah. I think you get different types of wingers. Some are kind of super pacey and like taking their man on outside and getting a cross in. That wasn't really, I mean, he was quick, but that wasn't what he was. He was super skillful, kind of jinking runs, scored some spectacular goals, and he was just a fantastic player. And I remember towards the end of his time with us, after we got relegated, and I remember going and watching us, and he was just like on a completely different level to anyone else on the field. And it's no real surprise that he then got kind of sold on, and then obviously had the career at West Ham and Man City and England. Absolutely fantastic player.
Yeah, when I was, obviously it was around the time when I was first getting into QPR, and that 95, 96, and we just mentioned it then, it felt to me like at that time he was trying to keep us up by himself. I used to tape our appearances, showing my age now, taping VHS, all our appearances on Match of the Day. And I remember we weren't on Match of the Day then, obviously, for a couple of years after that. So I only had this one tape of QPR, and it was just all Trevor Sinclair, just literally by himself almost. He was outstanding, but links back to what I said at the start. How on earth did he end up leaving for what he left for? We should have probably sold him a year or two earlier for a much higher sum than what we eventually ended up selling him for. He was outstanding when he was on song. Yeah. Number 18, Trevor Sinclair. And now we're moving on to number 17, but it should be number 1 because this is my number 1, my QPR hero. My first QPR shirt. It's Kevin Gallen, 20. He's my ultimate QPR hero. I absolutely love Kevin Gallen. 414 appearances, 104 goals. By my stats, he's the 5th highest goal scorer for QPR. and the 9th highest appearance maker. And I genuinely believe he should be higher in this list. I don't know why he's at 17. When we come up to some of the names as we go forward, less goals, less appearances. And as far as I'm seeing, we still sing his song at the matches and stuff. I'm surprised. Yeah. I would have thought he was a shoo-in to be in the top 10, but he came out as 17, and I've not fiddled with it. I'm saying he's my number one. What are your thoughts on that, Tony?
He was a great QPR player. Funnily enough, I had him at number 16, but I'm older than you, so I've got more history. But he kind of had 2 careers with us, didn't he? The first one was when he was still pretty young, and he broke Jimmy Greaves' all-time scoring record in the juniors, and he burst on the scene. And around the time we got relegated, and the first season back in the second division, he started the season absolutely on fire. I think he got something like 3 goals in 2 games or something, and he looked like he was going to have a huge season. And scoring that 3rd goal, he did his cruciate ligament.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
yeah, that was him out for the rest of the season. And it took him a while to get back to where he was, but I think he never quite had that kind of pace again. But then the second career he had with us, because he obviously went away and came back again, was as part of Ian Holloway's team with Paul Furlong, and what a partnership that was! That was incredible. And when he came back, he was a kind of slightly different sort of player. He had this uncanny knack of being able to hold the ball up and lay it off for people. So he scored a hatful of goals himself, but he also actually kind of linked up all the play. His record speaks for itself. Top player, and he made, who knows, without that injury, it could have been even greater.
Yeah, Steve.
Definitely. I remember seeing him play with Robbie Fowler in an England. I can't remember now. I was trying to think whether it was an England under-21 or an England youth team game, because being a sad old back in the day, I used to like to go to lots of different games. But yeah, Gallen and Robbie Fowler, what a pairing that was. And at the time I was thinking, this guy's playing for us, and he's going to be absolutely super. But that injury just did for him, really. And he lost that yard of pace. And I think what it showed, didn't it, when players like Chris Kiwomya and I think it was Rob Steiner took his place. I mean,
Yeah.
That wasn't great. And of course he left, and then he came back and he did it again. And the fact he's a QPR fan endears him to us all anyway. And by the way, I had him at number 12 in my list.
Yeah, I'm glad he's a bit higher. Yeah, I happened to be at that match. I mean, obviously, as people know now, I'm based in the Northwest, but I was on holiday on the Isle of Wight, and we went across to Portsmouth because we happened to be there when he were at that game. And I remember being heartbroken that he was injured and getting carried off. And I was young, but I remember the fans saying, "Oh no!" And it was like everyone seemed to know that in that injury, we weren't going to go back up that season. It was a massive moment for QPR and for Kevin Gallen as well. But it was just the second period. We've touched on it in the previous podcast. That whole team that he was part of, and the fact that he got to score that goal at Hillsborough that got us promoted again. That was amazing for him. I've still got the DVD where he's on the front with his when he's in his celebration. I just love Kevin Gallen. Number 17 is Kevin Gallen. There he is. Number 16, only the second goalkeeper we've come to, and he's the highest rated goalkeeper. The goalkeepers not many of them made the top 50. And he played 406 games for Queen's Park Rangers, goalkeeper from 70 to 79. He actually followed that up with 11 years at West Ham. So it was a world record fee for a goalkeeper at the time. There's not many players who play for 2 clubs for such a length of time as that. And that's, of course, Phil Parkes. Is he definitely our number 1 goalkeeper for you, Steve?
Definitely, yeah, no doubt. Phil was brilliant. I mean, I was lucky enough to see him play on several occasions, and he was a commanding goalkeeper, and he could pull off fantastic saves. He was destined for for better things, really. But yeah, he was a great goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was an incredible shot stopper. I mean, that's what he was. I mean, I remember sometimes you think, come and get the ball. He was a big guy, come and get the ball.
Yeah.
And sometimes he didn't come and take crosses when he thought he might, but he was such a shot stopper, unbelievable. And he only got one England cap, I think, because he was unlucky enough to be around at the same time as Shilton and Clements.
Yeah.
But he was, fantastic goalkeeper. And, his stats speak for themselves. So he had a fantastic time with us, fantastic time with West Ham, England cap. And part of that great team. So, top. And he was actually an early example of the Rangers buy cheap, sell for a fortune type approach. I think we got him for £15,000 from Walsall.
Yeah.
And then sold him for, I don't know, well over £500,000 to West Ham. So having had 9 years of fantastic service.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that QPR received a world record fee for a goalkeeper. To think that could happen now, it was just the type of thing that'll never happen again to QPR, isn't it? It's
Funnily enough, it's the second time it's happened, because there was a goalkeeper, I mean, way before any of our time, around the time of the war, Second World War, a guy called Reg Allen, who played for QPR before and after the Second World War, and was sold to Manchester United for then a world record for a goalkeeper. It was about 11 or 10,000 or something. But so second time we've done it.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned Reg Allen, because he was in the original voting. But obviously, because he's so long ago, I think most people, even ardent QPR fans, just don't know who the name is. So they'll have picked the other person, won't they, in our head-to-head ranking.
Yeah. And of course, none of us would have ever seen him play.
Yeah. He was in the preliminary rounds. But yeah, number 16, Bill Parks. Number 15 is the voice of lockdown to most QPR fans. So you already know who I mean with that. And that is, of course, Andy Sinton. 190 appearances, 25 goals. I actually really admire Andy Sinton because of a stat I found out a few years ago where he played every match of a season. We talked about it with someone else in one of the earlier parts, where these days players are so protected and they can't play a cup match on a Wednesday, and the club even themselves try and rearrange matches to Sundays to give the players a day off. Whereas Andy Sinton, there was a season where he played every match and it included 5 FA Cup replays, including like a second replay against Blackpool, and he scored in it. And I love the fact that that's what the players did then, and how committed and talented and fit the players were to do all of that. And that's Andy Sinton. Tony, is he high ranked for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's 15 on our list. He was 17 on mine, so it's about the same.
Yep.
He was a fantastic player. He was. He could be an out-and-out winger. So I think he created countless crosses for Celez and others to score from. But he actually, I think he's right-footed and played on the left wing. So I think that's right, and I think he was kind of one of the first to play on the wrong side. So he would cut inside a lot. He was kind of a winger, but also a kind of an attacking midfielder. And it was a fantastic player. Got a couple of England caps, I think. And one of the ones I always remember with him was that, of course, that New Year's Day at Old Trafford. So he scored one, and he had a fantastic game. And in fact, one of Dennis Bailey's goals was Sinton's shot came back off the post.
Yeah.
He was just a fantastic. He was a really, really good player, and and of course, it's great having him back at the club now.
Yeah. He was a bargain, wasn't he, when we got him from Brentford? And the fact, as you said, he went on to play for England as well. I think he actually was capped about 10 times for England while he was at QPR. And great that he's still associated with the club to this day. So it goes to prove that club loyalty again right the way through. Tremendous player, and as you say, a decent winger.
Yeah, I think he's endeared himself to a whole new generation of QPR fans as well with his work at the club, the Forever R's, the commentary, etc. I think I'm not saying he shouldn't be 15, but I think he's managed to keep himself up there or get a few more votes by with his recent association with the club, and fair play. Number 15.
The other thing about him was, you said he never got injured. He played loads and loads and loads of matches, which he did. The other thing is his hair was never out of place. It was always perfect. He's the only player I've ever seen who could do that.
Yeah. He's still got a full head of hair now, hasn't he, for his age? So, again, fair play. Number 15, Andy Sinton. And number 14, talking of beautiful hair, Alejandro Forlan. One of my absolute favourites as well in this part. 163 appearances, 5 goals. He came out as my number 5. I absolutely love him. Still wish he was at QPR to this day. One of the most just beautiful players to watch that I've seen in my time at QPR. Just the way he made the team tick, but he could tackle, and he just had everything. Can't speak highly enough of this guy. And I think Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank has a lot to answer for getting rid of him when he did, to be honest. Because why did we get rid of him? He still had, he'd had his injuries, and probably actually one of the unluckiest QPR players in history with injuries. And I think that helped, obviously, and get him a lot of favour with the fans as well, the way he would keep fighting back and get sent out on loans to Palermo and whoever else he was getting sent out. And he kept fighting back from injuries and setbacks. And he always seemed to make himself a key member of the team again before he was sadly cast aside. Steve, where do you stand on Forlan?
Oh yeah, loved Andre Forlan. His partnership with Sean Derry, those two made Taarabt tick. It was their work and their passing that created the space for Taarabt. But Forlan, he had that bit extra. He was skillful, and it always amazed me because he had, I think they said he had a choice of going to Italy or Spain or even Greece, but he chose QPR, which was a bit of a surprise. But then later on, when he got embroiled, didn't he? And he nearly caused us, or his agent nearly caused us a points deduction when they couldn't work out where the transfer fee had gone. But luckily for us, I think we just got a fine and went on to win the championship that year under the auspice of Mr. Neil Warnock. But Forlan will be forever a QPR hero, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Of the kind of real modern day players, he's one of my favourites. I mean, I guess you could say he was classy on the pitch. So tough tackler, great pass, kind of made the team tick sort of player. But he's classy off the pitch as well. I mean, the way he dealt with the injuries and kept fighting back, and the way he was just generally in his kind of off-pitch demeanour, he was I mean, obviously I never met him, but he just seemed to be a fabulous guy. Yeah. And I mean, so just a top player, top guy.
Yeah. I remember in that season when we'd just been promoted, so it was 11-12, and the first 6 months of the season, he was outstanding. And there was rumours that he was being linked with maybe a move to Arsenal, maybe even getting an Argentina call up and things like that.
Yeah.
When he was at his peak fitness and form, he was literally an outstanding player. And I think I remember seeing something once where Neil Warnock picked his top 11 players in his management career, and he had him in there. And you think how many years he's managed, and he still wanted him in his top 11 team. And quite rightly for me, very high on this list. I know he's made less appearances than some, but I think PPR fans just love him. I don't think we're alone in thinking that, obviously, for him to be where he is. Number 14, the 2010 Player of the Year, I should say, as well, and that's Alejandro Forlan. Number 13, someone with 295 appearances, 6 goals. He was part of the Barclays Premier League Team of the Year in the first season of the Premier League, 92-93, and that's David Bardsley. 2 England caps whilst he was at QPR. And he only actually ever came on as a sub once for QPR, which must annoy him. 295 appearances, only one of them was a sub. Yeah, Tony, David Bardsley, for you as
Fantastic fullback. If it wasn't for someone else who's coming soon, I would say the best that we've ever had. He was just a fantastic player, and of course he was a winger originally as well. So he was kind of, I reckon that if we had him and Clive Wilson in this season's team, there'd have been no joking. We'd have been promoted without a doubt, because that's what we're missing: two fantastic fullbacks. And people didn't talk about wing backs in those days, but he would have been a fantastic wing back. He got forward. He made he had a great cross. Top player. Should have had more England caps.
Yeah, definitely.
Tremendous right back, and he was one of many fantastic right backs that we've had at the club. And I always remember with David Bardsley, he played in that match against Liverpool in the cup, and he was absolutely outstanding. I think that's probably that game that he played against Liverpool in the cup that got him his England caps, because he was a no-nonsense sort of player. And the fact he's so high in our list at number 13, and he was number 15 in my list, it shows how highly he was rated.
Yeah, you make a good point as well before, Tony, about his crossing ability, because when you're saying he should be in this team, if we had someone like that this season, you have to think Charlie Austin would have scored a lot more goals. Dykes as well. Yeah, we're just lacking that, aren't we? Phenomenal. But I remember when I first started supporting QPR, I remember watching his crossing and thinking, I wish I could cross a ball like he could cross. Number 13, David Bardsley. Number 12 is the person with the lowest number of appearances of anybody in the top 20 as a whole. QPR's record transfer sale. One of the most popular players of recent years, and that is, of course, Ebere Eze. Now, I liked watching Ebere Eze at QPR, wish he hadn't had to sell him. But the fact that he's this high was a surprise to me, I have to say. Good player, but number 12, great to watch, amazing talent. Steve, where do you think, is he too high for you?
He was too high for me. I think he was there because I suspect a lot of people that were voting were a bit younger than me. And of course, Mr. Eze there, he's going to be one of the highest rated players of current times. And what a talent he is. I think he's going to go on to bigger and better things. He unfortunately got injured for Palace, but while he was with us, he was tremendous. And basically, on the money that we got for him, our future success hopefully will be built. But what a lovely, graceful player. And I remember the last game of the season before he got sold against West Brom. And he was superb. His movement was brilliant. And we're lucky that we had, Ilias Chair to take over from him. But I don't think anyone has seen the best of Eze, and he'll go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he's he's a very QPR player, actually. And we kind of love those kind of graceful, super skillful, clever players. And it all seems so effortless to him. It was just, an absolute joy to watch him. And, and he seemed to be a very grounded sort of guy. Didn't go to his head. And, as you said, Steve, when he first went to Palace, he had a fantastic start there, and then he got injured, which is a real pity. And he's got quite a lot of competition to stay in that team right now. But I just hope that, just that unfortunate injury doesn't stop him fulfilling this huge potential he's got.
Yeah, it was just, like you said, proper QPR maverick, wasn't he? How you got fans off the seats, probably brought fans into the stadium as well. That people want to just come and see him play. He was an outstanding player. I just feel 12 is very, very high for him.
I agree.
And to be honest, the voting, you can see from the overall top 50, there's people on here from 30, 40 years ago. I don't think it is a generational thing. I think he did appeal to everybody. Just the fact that he appealed so much was
Yeah,
maybe
it wasn't that high on mine, but I don't begrudge him. He was just a joy to watch, and we were lucky to have him as long as we did.
Yeah. So number 12, sorry, Abere is number 11 now, and that's someone with 476 appearances, so 4 times more and more than that than Abere, and that's Dave Clement. 476 appearances, 28 goals, 5 England caps. Of course, it's 40 years this year since his untimely death. Injuries robbed him of his later career and then robbed him of his life, unfortunately. But let's focus on him as a player for QPR. Outstanding stats. Was he an outstanding player, Tony?
Simply the best fullback I've ever seen. He was absolutely outstanding. He was hard as nails. He was a fantastic defender. In fact, I used to actually enjoy back in those days had a season ticket just by touchline, sort of roughly level the penalty area on his side. So I used to kind of get a grandstand view of him, and it was great watching him tackle wingers. I mean, he didn't just. Often he would kind of kick the ball into touch, but the number of times he actually came away with the ball when a winger tried to take him on was ridiculous. And he was really fit. He could play a bit. He was an attacking threat as well. He made loads of goals, scored a reasonable number. Just a fantastic player.
How'd you beat that, Steve?
Yeah, no, totally agree. He was, because he was part of that 75-76 team, the greatest team of all time. And for me, he was tremendous, a tremendous fullback. Probably not, and the weird thing is he probably wasn't our best ever right back, but he was a cracking right back with Gillard on the other side. What a defence we had at that time, and it was complemented by the midfield and the attack. But he was no nonsense, as Tony said. He got up and down that right side, and God rest his soul.
Yeah,
he's one of those players that I would have loved to see him play, because if you got by like a QPR mug with the best team up, it's always got Dave Clement as the right back or anything like that. Little teams that people put up, it always seems to be him. And rightfully, number 11, Dave Clement. And that is the end of this part. 20 to 11 done. Just the top 10 ultimate QPR legends to come in the next part. Be sure to join us for that. I'm sure you've been hopefully enjoying the countdown as much as we have. Get on our free QPR Hoops and Dreams forum. Share your views on the countdown so far. There's a link in the description to the video to send you straight there. Thank you as always to Tony and Steve for their input. I've been James. This is Hoops and Dreams. Come on, you R's.
Know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.